Hello there YouTube, I'm Wheelchair21, and on today's rolling review we are looking at Bandai Tamashii Nation's S.H.Figuarts Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Skull, which as one can see it has the beautiful contrast picture of the actual figure on hand. On the front of your box, you have it on the side, a nice holographic embossed freaking font for Kamen Rider Skull, and on the back you have your typical Tamashii Nation's promotional artwork featuring your figure, the various poses, as well as a majority of the accessories it features, which, honestly, I will say right now, this briefcase and extra double driver is really cool, and the fact that we gave his normal hat, battle scarred hat, the Skull Memory, and the Skull Magnum is one hell of a thing. Now let's bust open this box and look at the interior packaging. Now first off, we have our instructions, which features the fact that it does come with the crystal skull, and how you actually remove it is not by your typical ball joint peg. You actually remove the helmets from the actual neck joint, which is really good, and the first time ever I think we've ever had it, that you remove the helmets almost like a normal person would when wearing the suit. And then it shows, additional stuff with the Skull Magnum, the Lost Driver, as well as the double driver and briefcase on your said instructions. First thing you got is your figure. Here we have Skull. We'll open him up in a few seconds. And then we have all your pairs of additional hands and your accessories. We have 5 pairs of additional hands, the 2 hats, the crystal skull head, the 2 scarves, the actual Skull Magnum, the Skull freaking Memory, the actual double driver, and your briefcase. We'll go into those a lot further into the review and more in depth. Here we have Kamen Rider Skull at hand, and I'm not going to display him with the hat at this time, just because we're going to look at the basic details to the overall figure on its own. First off, the overall body uses black and silver, with a nice matte finish, I would believe, being for the entire core black bodysuit, where we have beautiful silver accents running throughout his ankles, his freaking wrists, his breasts, and his actual shoulder guards, and his helmet at hand. The actual freaking skull helmet is wonderful. It's beautiful, it's elegant and amazing, and does well as being a homage to Satoru Ishimori's Skull Man. Honestly, it is one hell of a figure when you just look at the overall amount of detail into something so simple and basic. The Lost Driver is splendid and swell, just like one could expect. The nice purple glare in the actual bottom part is well received. My Lost Driver is a little wonky. It sometimes goes a little too far out than expected, as well as all the other drivers you can take out and insert your Gaia memories, which are very small and very slim, so you might be afraid to lose these things. In addition to your Lost Driver, you also have a maximum drive slot on the actual belt of your driver, but that is expected since it runs almost on a universal system like the double driver. Now, his actual scarf is a nice, I guess, not too pliable, but a little bit of a rubbery plastic that attaches via a ball joint that goes through the core area of the scarf and pegs in through the scarf into the back of the actual figure and keeps it well snug and locked in place. Your overall points of articulation are practically the same to the Kamen Rider Double figure due to the fact that Skull and Double have the same overall body mold and form and overall suit. There's not too many differences to the figures aside from their helmet and a lot of the paint apps used even in the show, or the materials used in the show. It's just practically the common core suit by design and by your points of articulation. However, I noticed Skull is much tighter than my double ever was. It makes a few noises, a few creaks, a few crinks, and has some weird jarring kind of weird popping sounds. But overall, it's practically the same than what we already got, so you're not really missing out on much when it comes to what's the difference between the articulation overall. The only differences aside with previous releases are that this one tries to be more accurate to your actual frickin' suit on this show. Now, the first accessory I want to start off with is this wonderful briefcase, which is pretty much like a basic case most people use maybe for Yu-Gi-Oh!, maybe for transporting certain goods, items that, you gotta keep in a lockbox kind of safe type of briefcase. And it's really nice, the fact that they even have, the actual locking mechanism painted in almost perfectly to the actual type of briefcase this was in the show and series, is pretty interesting. Now, it does open up and reveals areas for your Gaia memories and your double driver, which does not actually open and swing like other drivers do in the series thus far, but it locks in place pretty well. The only issue is in the show, I think this uses like an actual foam mesh. This one, however, is just common core plastic, molded to fit each piece specifically, and then you lock it in place, and you can carry it around and beat your, Shocker or other villainous actual figures with this, which is pretty freaking nice and cool at hand. Now here we have Skull Magnum, which is pretty much a black and silver and red reskin of the Luna Trigger, or the Trigger Magnum from Kamen Rider Double. It is really cool. I've always liked this weapon where it turns from a small SMG into a nice high-end actual pistol. It's very nice, and I like how a lot of the details are really thrown into this overall accessory of the toy gun, or the actual, prop gun seen in the show. I mean, they really went in there to make sure every feature was well fine-tuned and painted practically into this gun. Not any detail is missed, as well as it foreshadows the fact that we're probably going to get gadget memories, due to the fact that right here, I don't know if people can see it, but there's a little slot for the bat shot or the stag phone or whatever I think can attach to the Magnum, since I always forget which gadget memory goes with which, since I felt like they were overall universal gadget memories that can practically attach to any weapon, whether it be the Magnum or the metal shaft. So right here, pretty cool, pretty good, and the fact, like I said, it does switch between the two forms, and you can actually insert your memory is even better to create the Skull Punisher Maximum Drive. Here are the optional hats, regular and scarred. There's not really much give in these, but they do have a bit of rubbery plastic throughout the brim of the hats. Honestly, they're not too pliable, so you can't really squish them up here, but you can sort of mess around with them here. I wouldn't recommend doing it too much. You could damage the hat, as well as when putting it onto your said figure. It doesn't really stay on too well, and if you force it on the head, you can easily scratch the paint and damage the overall resale value of this item. But overall, it stands on pretty good, even though my white balance makes it hard to see. There you go. There's the hat. It stays on quite nice. One of the last items we got is actually his additional scarf, which, as you can see, has the ball joint system, similar to Kamen Rider Double Scarf. This one is the blowing in the wind aspect of his scarf, which you will be most likely needing to use with the Skull Boiler when it finally comes out, or I should say when the new version comes out. And as people can see, it really looks like a real tattered cloth, even though it's kind of just pliable, rubbery plastic that gets harder the more folds and more depth to the actual area it gets. Like, the further you get out, the rubberier it is, the further you go in, the harder it gets. But it's a very nice scarf, nevertheless. And then you have your freaking skull, actual crystal skull optional headpiece, which honestly looks nice, really cool design. I like it. I like how it is two pieces. It plugs together. Doesn't stay well together unless you actually put it onto the actual head joint, but it's probably one of the more unique, ideal ways to alternate your heads, and I hope that Tamashii looks more into this in the near future. This is a really new, unique design. I like it. It's good. It's really simple and makes the switch and transition a whole lot smoother. It's evaluation time, and for my final evaluation, Tamashii Nation's S.H.Figuarts Shinkocchou Seihou Kamen Rider Skull is one hell of a figure art. Now, this is the reasoning why I love this figure art. One, because I missed out on both opportunities to get basic Figuarts Skull and basic Figuarts Kamen Rider Crystal Skull. Now, this rendition is the Seihou, where it's more accurate to the overall suit that we've seen in the series, as well as gives you both versions of the suit. You have the Crystal Skull helmet, you have the basic Skull helmet, you have the alternate versions of the hats, and a better rendition of his scarves. As well as it does come with a very interactive Skull Magnum actual lost driver and a briefcase to recreate the Begins Naito. Now, the funny thing about it is, a lot of people know I'm not a huge fan of Kamen Rider Double outside of the aesthetic of the suits, the gimmick, as well as the concept of what the show is supposed to be. Characters, I'm too indifferent on. I like them, I hate them, it makes it hard for me to enjoy it and really love the show like the rest of the fandom does, but I do have a natural respect and hate for it at the same time. Now, with Kamen Rider Skull, it is a straight-on homage to Skull Man, Shitoro Ishimori's original hero, one of his original heroes straight up, that Toei wanted to turn into a tokusatsu. However, he took the idea, changed it up, and created Kamen Rider. So the fact that we have, a straight homage to the guy that kind of inspired the entire series is great and awesome. The only thing I hate is we didn't get that much time to see the actual suit in action, nor see its actor, Koji Kakiwa, actually being Sokichi Narumi on screen, which is the only real hate I have to say I had for the character of Skull, even though he was one of my most favorite characters overall, just because he was that embodiment of what I think a detective is. Nevertheless, though, this thing does range from $40 to $50 to even $60 at retail, and it depends at what store you purchase it from. So, going into this, you know you're going to have to spend a pretty penny if you expect to have the ultimate version of said character and actually be able to cherish and enjoy it. As well as, if you do like this video, as well as this review has made you want to go out and get this new version of the figure, I insist that you like the video, comment, share it to a friend, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as check out my various websites, Hirotaku and HeroClub.com. Anyways, I'm Wheelchair21, and I'll see you all next time with another Doyle's DVDs or Rolling Reviews.